Why is it forbidden to photograph a mummy? The ban on photographing mummies is not just a formality or a whim of museums. In fact, there are several reasons, and they combine science, culture, and ethics. Firstly, the scientific aspect. Mummies are incredibly fragile. Their tissues have been preserved for thousands of years, but they are easily destroyed by the slightest change in conditions. The flash of a camera emits light and heat, which can damage the structure of the skin, dried out by resins and time. Even if one photo seems harmless, thousands of tourists with cameras create a constant impact that accelerates destruction. Therefore, large museums, for example, the British Museum in London or the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, prohibit photographing mummies with flash. Secondly, the ethical side. For Egyptians, a mummy is not an exhibit, but a person who had a life, a family, and a belief in the afterlife. Undressing the body and putting it on display is a controversial issue in itself. Therefore, photographing it is perceived as another act of disturbing the peace of the deceased. Scientists and custodians of cultural heritage believe that this is a way to show respect for ancient people. The third reason is sacred. For the ancient Egyptians, preserving the body was part of the path to eternal life. It was believed that the destruction of the mummy could deprive the soul of the opportunity to be reborn in the afterlife. Modern Egyptians, especially religious people, perceive public photographing of mummies as desecration. Therefore, bans are often supported not only by museums, but also by society. Finally, there is a purely practical side. Tourists often take photos not only for themselves, but also for sale, blogs, or souvenirs. This reduces the value of official scientific and museum publications. Therefore, some institutions protect their exhibits from a commercial point of view. However, in recent years, technologies have emerged that make it possible to circumvent the bans. Scientists create 3D scans of mummies, digital reconstructions of faces, virtual tours of tombs. Thanks to this, anyone can see ancient remains in the smallest detail without risking damaging them. So gradually strict prohibitions find a modern alternative. Why do mummies scream? When we hear the expression screaming mummy, something creepy immediately comes to mind. A face frozen in a grimace, an open mouth, and the impression that the person is really screaming through the millennia. In reality, this phenomenon is explained more by physiology and the mummification process than by mysticism. One of the most famous screaming mummies is a find in Egypt, in the Valley of the Kings, where in the 19th century archaeologists discovered a body with a wide-open mouth and an expression of horror on its face. Versions immediately appeared about a painful death, a curse, or a violent ritual. However, scientists explain, during mummification or natural drying of tissues, the facial muscles lose tone, the jaw hangs down, and the mouth can remain open. The same thing sometimes happens with modern bodies during improper burial. But the story does not end there. Analysis has shown that some screaming mummies did die under strange circumstances. For example, the Cairo Museum houses the so-called mummy of unknown man, whose mouth is open and whose body looks distorted. Scientists have found traces of poison in the stomach, and the mummification itself was carried out extremely carelessly, without removing internal organs or traditional rituals. This gave reason to assume that the person was executed or poisoned, and his body was deliberately dishonored, deprived of a worthy rite. According to one version, this was the son of Pharaoh Ramses III, who participated in a conspiracy against his father. His scream could have been the last expression of horror before death. In other cases, the mummy's scream is just an accident. When drying, the skin contracts, revealing the teeth and creating the illusion of a grimace of pain. The combination of an open mouth and empty eye sockets makes a frightening impression on the viewer, as if the dead person is frozen in a moment of suffering. Thus, mummies do not actually scream. It is a game of anatomy and circumstances. But it is worth acknowledging, such finds have given rise to many legends and have become a source of myths about curses and sinister secrets of the ancient Egyptians.